it or? This number? Okay. Okay.
Make me look bad on the cell phone here.
All right. This is the Open Space and Ecology Committee meeting for October 17th. So calling it to order, and let the record show that who's here? Claire, Mary, Michelle, and Barbara. We have a quorum. So do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second?
Yes, seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, adoption of the agenda. Is there anyone with oral communications? No. Okay, so tonight, we've been waiting for months. Tonight, we have a presentation on the annual waste diversion efforts with Teresa Montgomery from South San Francisco Scavengers. Welcome, Teresa. It's good to see you again, and we're really excited to hear what you have to say and show us all the pretty pictures.
Okay. Come on up here. I love that picture. I didn't know you were going to have that in there. That was great. We had a little tour through our learning center. When was that? Maybe 2 months ago? 3 months ago? Wow, time flies. But we had a really good time. That photo was taken in our learning center that was refurbished about a year ago. There's some great murals in our closed loop aquaponics tank in the back where there's goldfish getting everything from, it's mostly mint growing in there, and the mint get everything from the fish tank. Anyway, I had a Brisbane Elementary 3rd grade class through there just this morning, and lots of great questions and super fun kids. So I will just jump in. You've got it, or I've got it, Adrian? Let's see. Oh, okay. I'm just going to jump in right here with City of Brisbane filed their electronic annual report with Recycle a few months ago. The calculated diversion rate that we think will be accepted by the state of California is 79%. So we're right up there in our high 70 landfill diversion like we have been for several years. It's testament to the fact that we have good programs and people participate in them. And we're right where the state wants us to be. I'm going to kind of gloss over that because we have a lot of other things to talk about, even though I could do a lot more congratulatory.
Can I just ask a question? What were we at the last time you came?
I believe it was 78%. I should look, but we've been in the high 70s for quite some time.
Okay.
And the state's looking for us to be at 75% or so.
Yeah, we're looking for us to be at 90, so we got some work to do.
We will get there. So now I kind of jump to another topic, from what we're doing great to National Sword, which I don't know if everybody's kind of heard about this or read up. It made the news all over the place. Basically, National Sword is China's import policy changed dramatically this year. They basically said, you know what, you've been sending us recyclables, and when I say you, I don't mean you or Brisbane or even California. I mean the United States. We've been shipping recyclables to China for a couple of decades now, and they finally said, you know what, you're giving us more than we can handle and stuff that's too dirty for us to handle. So they started to push back, and they slowly kind of ratcheted down to where they've said, we will only tolerate 0.5% of contamination in a bale of recyclables. So if you're sending them a bale of cardboard and they tear it apart and more than 0.5% of what was in that bale is anything other than cardboard, they don't want it. So this has had a lot of ramifications for us. And it's not just, it's cardboard and paper, so fiber materials, but it's also some of the lower grade plastics that were going to China. We've had to just really step back and slow down. We are doing, in response to this, we're trying to educate residents and businesses more on proper sorting so that we get less contamination at our facility. And then at our facility, we've slowed down our sort lines, we've added workers, and we've added kind of a new quality control program so that we make sure that once we load up bales of a recyclable and ship it overseas, they won't open that up and find that we sent them junk and then blacklist us and not take future loads or send an entire load back. So what we do periodically now, like I said, our sort line goes slower, there's more people on it, and then when we create a bale, we have somebody who really looks at the bale very closely. Sometimes they also send inspectors over to look at bales before they'll approve a load to be put in a shipping container and shipped out. If we open a bale and we look through it and we find that there's a high amount of contamination in it, we troubleshoot. Well, why did that get in there? How did we miss that? How could we have prevented that? So we're spending a lot more time and resources on our end doing that. And then we're really just hoping that all the people who participate in our recycling programs get even more on board than they already are. We're trying to put the kibosh on what I call wish cycling. You know, you have a really cute teddy bear and you don't want it anymore and you really think that it could be recycled or reused. So instead of putting it in the trash, you put it in the recycling. That's wish cycling. Your recycling container or the instructions for your recycling container doesn't say you can put plush animals in there. So you really need to pay attention. Know what to recycle. Let me go back a little bit here.
That is a really key point, and we struggle with that a lot at our house. A lot.
I think everyone does. You know,
Yeah.
if you drive down any street anywhere in the Bay Area and start looking in recycling containers, you're going to find things in there that really what they are is reusable, not recyclable. People have to remember that it's better to reuse than to recycle. And reusing takes more effort. You might have to repair something, refurbish something, sell it, put it on consignment, donate it. You have to find an outlet for it. If you give it to us and we don't have a recycling market for it, guess what? It's trash.
Yeah. Yeah, in our house, I've now instituted, when in doubt, throw it out.
Right. Which
Don't
is kind of a
contaminate
change.
the stream.
We used to say oftentimes, if you're looking at an item and you are fairly certain that it's recyclable, go ahead and put it in the recycling because it'll come across a sort line and we'll get a chance to look at it. We've changed that. Now we're really saying, you know what, if you're not 100% sure that it's recyclable, don't put it in, especially if it's going to contaminate the other things. This chart I just wanted to point out. A lot of times I get asked, well, why is this national sword thing such a problem? This chart kind of explains why. When you look at, in the United States, how much of our recyclables are going to China for recycling, you can see it's more than half for 2017. It's a whole lot. So when they say we're not going to, or when they tell us that the contamination has to be really low, but they've also said we don't want as much volume, they've cut it down. They're taking somewhere around maybe 20 or 30% from the United States from what they used to, maybe even less now. That hurts us. We look at, it says other countries, the orange part of each bar there. The other countries are not able to pick up that slack. So there's a lot of recyclables out there now that we just don't have anywhere to send to. We've been extremely lucky in that because we have dual and sometimes tri-stream recycling, our stuff is cleaner than a lot of neighboring communities. So we've not been as hit as hard as some. Because our paper has good reputation of not containing, say, broken glass and not having food waste smothered, on it because we're not collecting food containers with our paper. So we're super lucky, but still we're struggling to find good, strong markets. And that brings me to this slide. So, okay, well, what does that mean? This picture was taken in front of, this was in Sacramento, in front of the Capitol several months ago. This banner basically says, what is the value of 26 tons of mixed paper waste? And that's what you're seeing on this truck. That's 26 tons of mixed paper in bales. And if you could read it more clearly, you'd see that in 2011, the value of that truckload was somewhere around $4,000 something. And now the value is negative $520. So for people who think recycling makes a ton of money, it doesn't pay for itself. Now it's really at a loss. It's just not bringing in anywhere near what it used to, and we're struggling to keep it out of the landfill and not have to pay to have it landfilled.
So I have a question on
Mhm.
that. I know that it's not a commodity anymore. It's a what do you I hate to say albatross, but it's not a commodity. But keeping it out of how expensive would it be to put that in landfill?
It's a great question. Honestly, we're getting to the point where the cost to landfill per ton, it may actually be cheaper to do that than it would be to collect it with a separate truck and a separate cart and a separate driver and put it over the sort line and bale it and all of those costs. But it's still the right thing to do.
Yes.
And we still have Assembly Bills 341 and 1826 that require that people sort and that we keep the stuff out of the landfill. So we are not landfilling any of this, and we don't plan to. We are going to just have to adjust the way we do things and deal with the markets as they change. If we could rewind back to, let's say, the early 90s, when there were still paper mills on the West Coast, we did all this domestically. And I think that might happen. Now you might be looking at Chinese companies who were processing our stuff and can't anymore in their country. They're coming over here and they're buying up shuttered paper mills and trying to bring them back to life. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time. We're going to find some new markets that pop up, and we will recover from this. We just kind of don't know what that recovery is going to look like yet. So what I've been telling people is what this says in the top right: keep calm and recycle on. Just do it mindfully. Take the time to know how to sort properly in your community. I realize that it's different, even in our city. If you're trying to recycle at home versus a business here, and if you live in a multifamily residential complex, it's different than single family. But either way, wherever you live, wherever you work, or if you're in a public facility, look for signs. Look and educate yourself so that you do the right thing. I have my little hashtags there. We've done a whole lot of social media and different outreach. We've been in, I think, every luminary for months and months with different messages, but they all basically coincide with this. Know where it goes, sort smart, recycle right, keep it clean. These might look familiar. These are some of the more recent ads that have been out and about. They all have very important messages. A couple of the things that are different, this bottom left, when people have a whole lot of cardboard and it won't fit in the paper recycling side of their cart, they'll put it out loose and we grab it. That's great, but as you can imagine, if it's out on a pouring rain day, it's soaked. It comes into us, it gets processed. By the time it gets baled and put in a shipping container and arrives wherever it's going for recycling, it's moldy, and then it's not recyclable. So we're asking people now, when you have cardboard, either bring it into us or keep it until a dry collection day. Don't put it out when rain is predicted. And the other thing is with bottles and cans. The bottle and can recyclers are able to deal with labels around cans and some residual food waste, but it's a lot easier to market materials that are clean. So we're really working with people to we say, please scrape and rinse. You don't need to put it in the dishwasher. You don't need to fill up the sink with water and waste a bunch of water and soap. But as much as possible, if things can be empty, that really helps bring up the value of the recyclables. And then always, the middle one is a big one there where it says, remember that food soiled paper belongs in the green cart. Can't have any food or grease in with the paper. That's a definite contaminant. And if we build up the reputation of trying to recycle paper that has grease on it, no one will buy it from us. So we really need to avoid that problem.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
On bottles and lids or no lids?
That is another excellent question. So I'm excited to say that I'm seeing more and more often that companies are putting out, say, take a water bottle, where the lid stays connected to the bottle, and they're making the lid out of the same plastic as the bottle. So if you're shopping for something in a plastic bottle, look for that. Because if that's the case, if the lid stays attached and it's the same type of plastic, just leave the lid on, and it's fantastic. Otherwise, your empty water bottle, you can either take the lid off and put it in the trash, or if you leave it on, my understanding is when it gets to the plastics recycler, they cut the top off and they recycle the lid separate from the bottle because it's a different type of plastic and has usually a lower value and less opportunity for reuse or recycling. If you take the lid off and you put it in the recycling separate from the bottle, it's too small for our human sorters to pick, so it won't get recovered. And then, of course, anytime you have the chance, if you could choose something bottled in glass instead of plastic, or in metal instead of plastic, choose the glass or the metal. It really is just better for the environment. We're more likely to recover it, has a higher value. Plastics, I think we all know, are bad for a lot of reasons.
Oh, God, yes.
Right? Even if you can recycle it, you know, we hear about all the microfibers that get through your washing machine and are released out. You know, we could talk about that for a whole night, probably. Moving on to, there's a lot of extraordinary efforts, I think, that are taken here in Brisbane. We've the last 2 years, we've done an Earth Day festival, and we've invited the whole community. We've had several Brisbane residents come, and we do a whole walk through our facility and educate people on what happens to everything when it goes away. We always say we're away. Throw it away. Okay, that's it. We continue to work a lot with the schools. We get tour groups from Littman. Last year we had 2 or 3 from Littman and a couple from Brisbane Elementary, and we've been working in both schools to improve their programs. We did the first compost giveaway this year that I can remember for many years. Can anybody else remember a compost giveaway? We haven't done it for a long time.
Like a composting container?
We took a load of organic material that had been processed in our digesters up to Napa, where it's being turned into a finished compost, and we unloaded that material and they reloaded it with finished compost, and we backhauled it here and dumped it for public use. So it was advertised, it was in an e-blast, I think it was on the city's website, and people came with their own bags and buckets and were able to get a sample of what the finished product looked like. And I think that event was very popular and successful, so I look forward to being able to do that again. And then the last thing that I listed on here were all the videos. The city had some fantastic interns this year, and they did some very creative videos. The Angel and the Devil, did you guys see that?
Yeah, can we get Adrienne to do an imitation of her for the upper balcony? That was awesome.
No, the trash can voice was a one-time thing.
But those were fantastic, and then we're actually right now working on a video that thoroughly explains how the split carts and the split recycling truck work. Because as part of our efforts to keep it clean and have everybody sort properly, we want everyone to have 100% confidence that when they put their stuff properly sorted in that cart, that it stays that way. So this video that we have going, it shows a cart being picked up, it shows how the hopper and the truck is divided and the materials stay on separate sides of the truck, and then it shows how it's processed once it comes into us. So we hope to have that before the end of the year and get that out for everybody to see. That is a constant question.
It was a big myth, and after we took the tour of the facilities, I came home and posted pictures on Facebook of the separated. I climbed up on the truck and took the pictures and had to assure people that it didn't all go into the same hole.
Right.
Even my husband didn't believe until he saw the picture that it goes into the same hole, and so that's a good myth buster.
Yeah, so I hope everyone will see it. I hope it goes viral.
I just posted today, shared a video that I got of why you don't put your plastic bags in the plastic recycling. And so far, I shared it on Residents of Brisbane, and a lot of people have watched it so far.
That's a good one. We get asked that all the time, especially because some of the neighboring cities do allow plastic bags in the recycling. But they are so hard to market, and they really do get wound up in the equipment. They are really just a problem. As much as we can avoid bags or reuse them until they fall apart, that's really the best thing we can do.
So can I interject? I wanted to mention a quick comment on the compost giveaway. Karen and I have been getting questions up at the pool about that, so that was really popular. We just got people asking us about it today. Are you guys going to do it again? So people were really excited about that. And then I actually got a question from a resident that I did not know the answer to. So we were talking about the split carts, but somebody who lives, I forget where, one of the upper streets, said they have a little truck, the little mini truck.
They call
that
it the
comes.
Tonka truck. It's really cute.
So is that actually all going into, they were under the impression, and I did not know anything about this, that everything of theirs was all going into one truck and being
They make several passes.
Okay.
There may be a couple of homes that are so hard to access that it is mixed in there, and then when it comes to us, it's dropped on the floor and sorted.
Okay.
So, and if everyone's doing it right, your trash is bagged. Nothing else is. So we should be able to recover anything in there. So I'd have to know the actual address to get a for real answer, but
What
yeah,
do you mean your trash is bagged?
you can use a liner bag for your kitchen trash, right? So you're usually whatever you're putting in your trash can is in a bag. No?
Not our house.
Well, good for you, because I mean the bag is just trash, right?
Yeah.
If you can not bag it, that's great. But
Yeah.
the vast majority of people bag their trash. We ask that you bag things that are small, like shredded paper and styrofoam. But other than that, loose is fine. But bottles and cans should be put in loose. Paper should be put in loose. So we're able to recover that. And that little truck is super cute. It allows us the flexibility to get in and out of those really narrow streets.
So does it have separate compartments in it, or does it just make separate trips?
It makes separate trips. It's a rear loader. It just has one big pocket in the back that they dump everything into. Okay, and then here's something else. I don't think I think it has been over a year. Last July, not July of 18, July of 2017, we put in this Scott Turbo separator. If you've toured our place since last July, you've seen it. But basically, we are now able to take organic waste from businesses who maybe don't want to participate in the program for one reason or another, or they want to participate, but they just can't quite get their stuff really clean. If it's not clean enough for us to put it directly into our anaerobic digesters, we put the material through this Scott Turbo separator, and it takes out some of the contaminants in packaging. So the picture on the right shows you, it looks like, I've heard it called salsa, I've heard it called mash, I've heard it called oatmeal. It does kind of have the consistency of a bowl of oatmeal, but it's able to take what you see in the left-hand picture there and make it look like on the right. There's another bin, I don't have a picture of it, of the residual, the contamination. It takes out all of the stuff that doesn't belong. But then we take that mash and we can put it in our digesters, and it makes a ton of gas because it's all pretty much food waste. So this is allowing us to rescue more organic material from what would have been designated for landfill before. So we love this. This is helping a great deal.
So it takes and opens the plastic bags and gets
It
them
does.
out.
It's a series of augers and tubes. It's just kind of magic how it pushes everything through these screens and holes and yanks out the plastics. And it can't handle glass, or it can handle glass, but the glass ends up contaminating the finished product. So we're looking to get rid of all the glass that would be in there. But it's pretty good at taking out any of the other contaminants. It will pull out some of the fibers and some of the plastics, and should come see.
I want to. What about glass? One thing I wanted that really stuck with me the last time you were here was about not putting household broken glass into recycling, and not putting like a broken drinking glass or anything that wasn't a bottled glass, because it's a different formula of glass and contaminates.
That's one of those
load.
common things where people go, well, it's glass. I think it should be recyclable. I'm going to put it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's different types of glasses with different melting points, and there's glass that has plastic in it, like auto glass. And if
light
you
bulb
mix
glass.
those things, it can ruin a whole load of glass going out. We have to be
Yeah.
very careful. And that comes up time and time again because of biotech.
Right.
If you work in a lab, most of the glass you use in a lab is meant to have a high boiling point, or you can't, Pyrex does not
Pyrex
melt down at the
does
same
not
temperature as a Snapple bottle, so you can't mix the two.
Right.
Good point. And this is my next big topic. We have a major program change in the collection of household batteries. This is partly in response to a huge fire that happened at one of our competitors' sorting facilities down in San Carlos. They believe this fire that put them out of business for several months was caused by a lithium-ion battery. And so that kind of put focus all over San Mateo County and actually all over the country on proper battery disposal. People get lazy and they want to just throw their batteries out with the trash or in with the recycling. We used to say, take your used household batteries, put them in a bag, and put them under the blue lid of your recycling cart. But you know, when that happens, when that bag comes in and maybe it's under a layer of other things, we might not see it right away. If one of our tractors pushes it across the cement floor, you could have a spark if that bag breaks and the batteries are there. Anyway, we really want to do our part to make sure there's no fires. So we've decided to change our instructions. So we're asking that people use a clear zipper top bag for their batteries and that they tape the terminals on any 9-volt or lithium battery before they put it in. And we're also allowing cell phones, old cell phones, to be in there too, and we ask that you wrap them in paper. So we're just trying to keep anything that could spark a fire from making contact. And by putting it on the trash cart, we think when it was going inside the recycling container, we think we were missing some of them, and we think sometimes the bags were breaking inside the trucks. By doing it this way, we have a special collection container on the trash trucks. They're not going to ever be mixed in with everything else. And in the rare occasion that maybe a trash driver wouldn't see this, say first thing in the morning, it's pitch black, if they missed the bag and dumped it into the trash truck, it's a lot harder to start a fire with loads going from a trash truck into a landfill trailer than it is when you're pushing recyclables up over a sort line and over all kinds of, gears and whatnot. It's just a whole lot safer. We are going to be mailing every single family home an orange bag like shown in that photo just to get you started. It has instructions on it. But once you use that bag, you can use any clear bag so we can see what's in it. That's the idea with having it be clear. For multifamily, we're working on a program for multifamily. It's hard to offer this service when people are sharing bins. If you have a big front loader trash can and somebody puts a bag on top, what happens if the next person doesn't see it and opens the lid and the batteries are on the ground in the enclosure? We just foresee a lot of challenges with multifamily situations, but for any bigger apartment or condo complex that wants to participate, they should call us and we'll try to work with you. We're going to have buckets that we're going to offer. We just need somebody to be the champion of it, someone to say they'll keep eyes on it, make sure people don't put things in it that don't belong, make sure things are taped and bagged appropriately so that we don't cause any, dangerous situations at anybody's property. So that's that.
You thought about battery collection stations?
So I believe that Brisbane Hardware takes batteries.
Yeah.
If you go to recyclestuff.org, it's a great search engine. It's actually, it used to only be for Santa Clara, I think. But it's been expanded and it has all kinds of resources for all over San Mateo County. You can go in there and you can type in household batteries, but you could also type in styrofoam peanuts, or you could type in window glass, anything you had, and the city you're in or the zip code, and it'll tell you all the drop-off opportunities there are. So you can use that for batteries, and of course the county takes batteries for free, so you can always call and make an appointment to drop off with the county.
Yeah.
We do battery collection at Blue Line Transfer also. So it is important to handle them correctly. It's illegal to put them in the trash, and it is dangerous. So we ask that people pay attention to that. I think that's, I left, everybody got a little packet, so I wanted to tell you what you got in there really quick, just a little light reading. There's one that's just more information on batteries, and if you live in a single family home, you're going to be getting something similar in the mail. And also this was in the last e-blast that the city did, so you might have already read some of this. Then there's a copy of Waste Matters, which is our commercial newsletter. This was the last one that went out, and it talks a lot about Assembly Bill 1826, which ratchets up a notch on January 1st, requiring that any business that generates 4 cubic yards or more of trash per week must sort their organic material out. It cannot be sending it to landfill anymore. So prior to January 1st of 2019, the law said if you generate 4 cubic yards of organic waste, so if you're a market or a huge restaurant, big cafe, then it probably applied to you already. Now it applies to people, it's 4 cubic yards of any kind of trash, not just organics. So we're trying to reach out to everyone, make sure they're aware of the law, make sure they know that we do offer organics collection service, and have them call us to talk about setting up a proper level of service and getting that going so they're in compliance. Also, you got copies of all 3 of our guides. We have one for single-family residential, one for multifamily residential, and one for commercial. So these are all on our website. We do give them to new customers. We give them out at events and any chance we get, but they give great information. We're trying to get everybody to have the right level of service, and we're still working hard to keep litter down. So making sure that people put everything inside their cart or bin and keep the lid closed. Call us if there's overflow or they need any kind of service adjustment. So these are great. And the final thing was a copy of the last, or it wasn't the last, this is May's BioCycle, where they did a really nice write-up of our anaerobic digestion facility, and it includes some information on that turbo separator that I mentioned. So I thought I'd share that to keep you up to date on that, because it is something special. If people ask, well, what's different about how Brisbane handles organics? This would be it. There's nobody else in the United States that handles organics quite the way we do. So, and then my last slide I took at one of my favorite sunsets a few months ago. Just want to say thanks for inviting me. I love coming. Anytime you have questions or if you want to bring a tour group by, please contact me. We do tours as needed. We're happy to answer people's questions. And my latest thing lately, I've been telling kids to come and tour because there's a lot of jobs. Maybe not quite yet, but there's a new SB 1383. Probably next year when I come to talk to you, we'll be talking about that. It's a new legislation that's going to be requiring a lot more monitoring and enforcement of these programs, and I think it's going to create a whole lot of jobs. Either at companies like ours or even at the city level. So that's kind of exciting. I think it's going to make a big difference. Who wants to go first?
Okay. So I remember when I was recycling in the 80s, we had to be very careful to remove all the staples from the paper, and we had to tear out the plastic windows. Is it useful for us to go back there? I mean, is that going to make a difference?
It's funny because I've been telling people that too. I remember from my childhood, there wasn't curbside collection. So you collected whatever the local recycling center would take. And that was pretty much newspaper and aluminum cans. Mm-hmm. And you brought them only that. Mm-hmm. And you brought them stacked flat and nice in a paper bag. And you crushed those cans before you went, right? And if you didn't do it that way, they didn't take it from you. Do we need to go back to that? Part of me says yes, because at least we would have total control. Everything would be really clean. For the paper, they really don't want staples and paper clips and plastic windows.
And rubber bands.
Right. So it does help. If you can remove them before, I would love it. I don't know how realistic it is. It's super hard to go back and retrain people to do that. So we haven't said that we won't collect it if that's in there, but eventually if we stop being able to market our bales of paper because that's too high, then we'll have to rethink our policy. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, people ask that too on the like milk and juice paper cartons mm-hmm. that have the plastic spout. Mm-hmm. We've always been told those compost, there's residual because there's a plastic liner and then there's that, that cap and lid. They say they get screened out. Okay, but it still would, it gets screened out and sent to the landfill later. You might as well do it from your home.
Yeah.
So those cartons don't go in recycling?
No, they're better composted.
Yeah.
Take them apart and compost them,
mm-hmm.
like milk cartons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we cut out the spouts, and those just go in the trash, and then the rest of it collects our food waste.
That's perfect. I do that especially for runnier, stickier food because, yeah, it's just tidy.
Yeah.
We're not tidy. We use our little bucket you gave us.
Okay, good. That's great too.
Gross. And Glenn?
I apologize for running late. I may have missed this. You were probably talking about China and
Your mic, please.
I was just wondering, has China really stopped taking paper?
So they are down to taking less than 40% of what they used to take. And then what they will take, they will now only tolerate less than half of 1% contamination. Versus we used to be able to send them bales that had maybe as much as 10% contamination in them. So we've had to really ratchet up our quality control, slow down our belts, put more people on them, be very careful what we send. But yes, it's true. They're taking far less fibers and less plastics.
So I was just wondering, in view of that, would composting paper be a good idea?
It's definitely better than landfilling it, right? But my understanding for doing our anaerobic digestion and then sending it off to a compost facility, they're looking for this magic blend.
Okay.
If
Yeah,
we were to
putting too
send,
much
if we were to
paper.
show up at the composting facility with nothing but newspaper, they would turn it away. So we can put some, and we do. We get parchment paper, wax cardboard from the produce companies and stuff. We get that in our organics, and we're able to put some through. But it's harder. The composters don't love it, at least not in big quantities.
And plus,
I was just wondering what to do in view of the fact that I heard last week that China was taking a lot less paper as well as less plastic. I'm thinking
They are, and I think it's going to take us a little bit of time. I think there's going to be some new markets. I think we're going to see some stuff come back to being domestic.
which would be great.
Right. We really need to be handling our own problem. I mean, we've been so spoiled. When you think about it, why did we shutter all of our paper mills? Well, it became we were getting all these new cool products coming over from Asia, and it was so easy to just load those empty sea containers up with our trash, our recyclables, our dirty recyclables, and send it back. They were taking it, no shipping fee and no questions asked, and for a while it was good for them too. They were able to process it. They had jobs and they could process it into new stuff, but it no longer makes sense for their economy. And so actually it's more shocking to me that this didn't happen sooner. It seems like it should have happened probably 5-10 years ago. But it's forcing us, as an educator, I've been telling people for years, it's reduce, reuse, recycle, rot in that order. If everybody would pay more attention to the reduce and reuse, the other two would go away. So when we talk about paper, well, yes, it's a recyclable commodity, but unlike glass and aluminum, it's not it downcycles. Every time you recycle paper, the fibers get shorter, and what you can make it into it's harder and harder to make it into something new. Eventually, it's just plant matter and gets composted because it ends up as tissue paper or, whatever. But if we cannot use it, I mean, the more you can do, the holidays are coming. Electronic cards, don't use paper gift wrap. You come up with more creative options so we can prevent. It's really the best answer.
So we need to get to, the U.S. uses, I forget whether it's world, we use about 5.5 planets. So in order, our global footprint is about 5.5 planets. So that's closer to like an 85% reduction just to reach parity with one planet thresholds. So what would it take us to get from the high 70s to the high 80s?
yeah, that's
a really good
question.
question. I think prevention is key. We need to be generating less. That's a great question, Barbara. Well, I look at, where is there still room for improvement, right? Definitely on the organics, and AB 1826 is going to help with that. I think getting more people on board. There probably are still plenty of residents who aren't participating fully in the food program, still putting more either down the garbage disposal or in the trash than they could. I'm going to have to think on that, see if I can come up with something creative. We need some more creative minds to work on that problem.
We last year we were also talking about really what it takes to get those multi-unit buildings involved, and I'm wondering, how are those programs progressing? Do you have new news on that front? Have you made progress on that front? Do you have new programs? Because I know that's a particularly hard, because it's like I don't know why, but it's just, I understand it's particularly difficult.
It is. We still don't have very much participation in the organics program from multifamily. And part of the reason is it's not free. We got so used to, paper and container recycling is offered for what looks like free. Organics is not. It's more expensive for us to collect and process organics than it is to landfill it. So, unless we revamp the rate structure to make organics appear free, which I don't think I agree with. I think people should understand what the costs of providing any of that service is. But that's my own personal opinion. But I think that's a big part of it. And with the state coming in and mandating that people do it, I think that helps some. But the enforcement piece is not clear. So some of it is legislation and peer pressure. I'm not beyond public shaming also. When we used to, not going back to the 70s where recycling had to be done at a recycling center, but going back to when everything was collected in milk crate style open bins, people participated correctly, because if you went out to your curb and you saw that your neighbor filled up their bottle and can recycling bin with dirty diapers, they just wouldn't do it because they'd be ashamed,
Everybody
right?
Know. Yeah.
If we could go back to that, if we could have a cultural change somehow, maybe the kids are the key. Kids probably are, teaching them that they should be proud to reduce their waste and to participate properly. I
kind of miss the crates.
In a lot of ways, I do too.
Yeah.
And the recycling centers, I do.
Yeah. Glenn?
This may not be a question you can answer, but I was just thinking about the reuse part of this equation, especially with glass.
Mm-hmm.
So California has a law that I guess allows you to return glass bottles to the store for 5 cents or something, but nobody does it. And it seems to me that really the way to get stuff reused would be to standardize bottles somehow. It would be a whole lot easier if the bottles for your 6-pack of beer look just like bottles for any other 6-pack. And
right.
Do you ever hear about anything like that? Or
there is a rather strong movement in California to entice businesses to legislate themselves on those kind of things. There's extended producer
responsibility.
Yes, EPR. When I talked about, I'm not sure if you were here when I was talking about water bottles that have the lid that's attached. It's similar to if you go back to the 70s, our aluminum cans had the top that came off, and it was a big litter piece. You go to the park, and so they made them stay attached, right? Well, water bottle companies and other beverages too are being asked to make sure your lids are the same type of plastic as the body of the bottle and make them attached so they don't come off. If everyone does that on their own, no one will have to legislate it.
Right.
If they don't do it, eventually, I think there could be a law that makes everybody do that, so that we won't have lids as being one of the top things for coastal cleanup, right? So I'm not totally answering your question, but there is a movement. I think, people are touchy about it. How much do you have to require businesses to do? How much do you just encourage them to do, and then we as consumers, supply the demand for that? We only buy those and we avoid the other stuff. It's coming.
Yeah, I guess standardization of containers would be a really big ask, but it seems like that's the way to get reuse on a big scale if you wanted to do it.
I would agree. I mean, I watch in biotech right now, pipette trays. There were so many different varieties out there, and trying to recycle them was a nightmare. But more and more, the manufacturers of those are using #1 plastic, making it a lot easier for us. So Nobody legislated that, but they heard that demand from companies. A lot of biotech want to be green. They have, major green initiatives. So under the pressure of those big, your Amgens and your Genentechs and whatever are pushing that. And so it's happening. It just seems to be slow.
Mary and Claire, you guys are quiet down there. Got any
Learning.
questions?
I could talk trash all night.
So one of the things that the Brisbane Marina, so that we brought there. I've seen the new big.
Are people using them?
Well, yes and no. There's a problem, and the problem is to keep people from. It's kind of weird, but they have these like little holes that you have to shove everything through. Well, that's really counterproductive because you have a load of like a garbage bag full of green waste that you want to dump into the green waste, and you were planning to like dump it into the green waste and then put the plastic in the garbage, but you can't dump it through the hole. And so the lids on those dumpsters are very counterproductive. And this is, I've heard several people complain about it. I've heard boaters complain about it. We've complained about it at the yacht club because I'm trying to encourage everybody. Okay, let's put the stuff that can go in the digester in a separate bag, so that we'll take it down to the dumpsters. And so then we take it down to the dumpsters.
And you can't get it in.
And you can't get it in. And especially you can't get it in if you're not tall and big. And so it's not like lift the lid and dump it. It's like you have to get up there and kind of try to fit it through the hole. It doesn't work. I don't feel that it's working. And they're locked, so you can't even lift the lid if you wanted to, because I guess they don't want any
Something
illegal
that might
dumping.
work.
But that's
yeah,
crazy.
we don't want any illegal dumping.
But
We don't
wait
want
a second.
critters and wind and.
We don't want critters. We don't want wind. But illegal dumping. Well, we don't want extensive illegal dumping. But wouldn't it be better if people who were going to dumped it in there instead of dumped it on the ground? It's catch-22,
It is, but one thing that could work also, instead of putting a lock on there that requires a key, if you do a combo lock, and then you can give the combination out to the people who should have it.
Or you could
Have.
do a key fob lock, because all the people at the marina have the key fob to open the gates to the docks, and the people at the yacht club have a key fob. So you could put key fob locks
That would
on
work.
there, and that would work. That's a great idea. So can we do that? Because right now it's an impediment. It is a total impediment to proper recycling.
Sometimes we just have to think. We have to get creative and think of what'll work in each.
Yeah. I don't know what the technology is putting a key fob kind of thing to be able to open those, but right now it's not working.
So how tall are the bins, and how tall would you have to be to open the top? And
They're dumpsters.
Probably.
They're
so
they're big dumps. No,
even
they're
if you
taller
can
than-
unlock it,
taller.
could you
A
put the
6
stuff in?
Yeah, because you could kind of hoist it up. I mean, it would be,
You could do it.
Yeah, well, they're kind of all jammed into the. You could do it. You could do it easier than you can do it now. Yeah. Yeah. So there's some just
Something we
physical
can do.
logistics that really need to be worked out there to make it successful. And with liveaboards coming to the Brisbane Marina, 10%
That's gonna be big.
liveaboards, it's
Yeah.
even more important
Yeah.
that we make it as smooth as possible for everybody to be able to recycle at the highest level.
I can follow up. I'll follow up with Adrian and Karen after. And
Okay. Yeah, because, great idea, not quite right.
well, we'll learn as we go.
And these are, boaters in general are pretty conscientious about that. They really try hard at, doing it right. They're used to having to do that.
We'll take another stab at it.
Okay.
You got my snap-on lid for the milk cartons yet?
Oh, I forgot. Oh my gosh. Okay, remember when you asked about that? I do think that's a great idea, but no, we don't. have
Snap-on
those.
lids for milk cartons?
I wanted a little collar that fits over like a milk carton with a snap lid. So because the problem with throwing stuff in the milk carton is that it's not really closable. Right? And it can get kind of stinky, and if you get a fruit fly that comes in and on your bananas, it goes to town. So I wanted just like a little plastic collar with a snap lid that went on that, so you could just open it up, throw your stuff in the milk carton, snap it shut. Once it gets full, you take your snap lid off, you throw it in the green bin, you get out your new carton,
Put
and
that back on.
drop your new snap lid back on it.
Why don't you invent one and go to Tap Plastics and get it made, Barbara? You'll make
I
a fortune.
should.
You
I
should.
should. I have
Wait,
too
Can we
many
make it out of
projects,
stainless
Michelle.
instead of plastic?
Sure, totally. As long as it kind of snaps shut, I'll be good with that. You know, even if it's just heavy enough, it could just sit on.
Barbara,
Yeah.
you don't put your carton back in the fridge while you're filling it?
No, I don't.
That's one way.
That's that's one way I could do it. But I still want to snap.
What about a coffee can? Would it be big enough to put it over it?
Yeah,
Not
I
as
think.
cool as the.
Yeah, because then I cut the plastic spouts out, so then I think they would just, if it didn't fit
know-
tight, they would just go in it.
This sounds weird, but look
Okay.
at that.
We're having fun now.
A bread box that sticks up like this, and you put the whole carton in the bread box and put the lid on it.
Maybe.
And then you just take the carton out and put a new carton in.
Okay, we'll look for that. It's especially since I've been asking for you for a while.
I know. I remember the first time you brought it up. I'm like, oh, okay, I can totally picture what you're talking about, and that it would work. But it just, I'm not an inventor.
Yeah, I know it's a bit out of your guys' purview, but
But you know,
You
it's
have those
so
other
funny because
composting bins, so.
everyone has different. Well, not everyone, but there's so many different ways of participating. So what works for you might not work for Glenn, might not work for me or Michelle. But
yeah,
I think that I think that's a good idea.
I think it
Sure,
could.
it would work.
Yeah, when we were talking about
At this point, I think I'm razzing you.
ideas,
I love it.
I have to say that the time I've spent in Tokyo has been really remarkable, because there in Tokyo, they're really, really freaking serious about recycling.
Oh yeah.
And in your kitchen, you have this little thing. It's about like this by about like this, and there are 5 bins. Okay, and you separate out everything into 5 things, and every
What are the categories?
well, there's organics and there's plastic. I don't remember, but I did take a picture of it. I'll see if I can find it. Anyway, and you every day the garbage truck comes for one of those bins. So like Monday is plastic day, Tuesday's paper day, Wednesday's the X day, this day and that day. So you take your one bin down per day on your way to work.
And you don't dare give them what you're not supposed. Yeah,
Oh my
everybody does
God.
it perfect.
It
That's what we need.
we
That's
put
the
something
answer.
wrong
We need
one
that
day and
cultural-
2 people in the
change.
building, even though we didn't speak Japanese, 2 people in the building scolded us for putting the wrong thing down the wrong day. So, I mean, talk about peer pressure.
Uh-huh.
So, it would be, I mean, I can't believe, it's so frustrating, because even at events that we have, I mean, we put the recycle bins up at the Mission Blue Center, and we have them all separated and
Mhm.
stuff. And the last 2 parties I've been to there, or the last 2 events, I'm sitting there sorting the garbage, because people look at it and they're like, and then they
No,
just
what I
dump it in
found,
one.
what I found is the key thing at events. You have to control the waste before it's created. So if you're going to do a festival or you're going to do a big party, even like a classroom party, you have to say, like somebody has to make a decision. Everything we use is going to be compostable. Cups, plates, everything. And then you've made it really easy. Like maybe all you have is a recyclable juice bottle and everything else is compostable. And then you make an announcement ahead of time. Here's the container for the juice bottles. Here's the container for everything else. Do it right.
Yeah, and you try, and then still, and then the other thing that I've found to really be a challenge is zip code by zip code, district by district, building by building has different recycling
Correct.
standards. Like what we take in the anaerobic digester, it doesn't fly in San Francisco. It's
Right.
completely different. It's different in Walnut Creek. It's different. Every region is different, and I wish I've thought about, could we develop some kind of app that you put on the garbage cans that you can scan your thing and it tells you which one to put it in, because my God, I'm talking, people with master's degrees standing there in front of their garbage cans going, what the heck do
Oh,
we
I
do?
call it the Starbucks
Dilemma.
because you have your Starbucks cup. That's the cup, the sleeve, the lid, and the plug.
And the straw.
Right, and you're like, part of it's compostable, part of it's recyclable, part of it you think is recyclable, but it's actually not. It's very
And part of it's
challenging.
compostable in Brisbane, but it's not compostable in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I have one more question. So there's the slightly yellow thermal paper that has a reduced chemical coating, and that's why it's the as opposed to the white thermal paper, which has additional chemicals in it. Now I know that it's no BPA and a couple of other things. I'm not really sure what they've done to it differently chemically. Is the yellow, are the yellow slips clean enough to go in are they papery enough to go in the paper recycle, or should they still be going in the green bin?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer.
I stumped her.
It's one of those, there's that gray area
Yeah.
where, if you put it in with the paper and it goes over the line with a bunch of what looks like clean office paper or junk mail, it's going to get baled with our mixed paper and be recycled. Now, down the road, when they break up in that bale, are they going to reject that? I honestly can't answer that with any sense of confidence.
So it goes back to the default. When in doubt, throw it out.
Okay.
Because it's better to throw it out than pollute the stream.
Yeah, in this case, thermal paper is supposed to go into the green bin, although I don't like composting the white slips because of all the chemicals in them, so those I just throw out. But I've been throwing my yellow slips into the compost, but I just want to know that that's still the right decision.
It's hard that we call it compost.
Yeah.
And I really think when it's the anaerobic digester bucket, it shouldn't be called compost.
Well, we actually call it organics. And the
Organics is better.
The reason
Right, I
I
should
call it
call it
organics is because the state of California mandated organics recycling. It did not mandate composting.
Okay.
So I call it organic, but it's one of those semantics. When you talk about wanting it to be consistent from city to city, state to state, oh, good Lord, there's so much terminology. It makes it really hard.
And which is why we're having a hard time educating the public.
Right.
So as a company, we
I
need
have a
to.
question.
Yeah.
So has any thought been given to the actual garbage cans, putting pictures of what you can throw away?
So we actually do have a garbage label now. In fact, I know we have some organics ones that I try to keep here up in the front lobby. I should bring some garbage ones too, because historically the garbage containers were all delivered unlabeled, because it used to be the only
Thing we had.
stream. But now we do have them. If you just moved in and we deliver you a new cart, it will have a sticker on it. And it has, just like on the recycling lids, it's very similar. It has photos of common things. It has like dog poop, has a beat up stuffed animal, has some old shoes, a hose, whatever, some stuff. So yes.
Yeah, so I work in biotech, not in the labs, but we do have trash cans devoted to recyclables, compost, and trash. And it's inevitable that there's stuff mixed in all three. I'm not kidding. So even just putting pictures on the cans would help. Because some people, is this compostable? Is it recyclable?
We do have them, and there's printable versions on our website. And I know the county is coming up with some that they'll provide free labels
We
for.
used those. We had them up on the walls, but then
Oh, sorry. We had them up on the walls, but it was inevitable that they fell off and they weren't replaced. But just somehow getting the pictures embedded
That's something else
in
that,
there.
the question of what do we do to increase participation and get to the next level. There has to be a champion at every home and at every business that when those signs fall down, they put up new ones.
Come back up.
When
Yeah.
you look in there and stuff is not sorted properly, you find out who's doing it, or you find a way to require it. I mean, so many businesses, we go in and we do a training, we have everybody up to speed, and we leave, and maybe we come back a week later, everything's good. 6 months later, it's all new people,
Yes.
and they all came from somewhere else where the program was different, and it's a mess. and there's just not enough of us. There's got to be somebody in every home and every business that makes it their responsibility to keep doing it. And until it's everybody's priority, we're going to continue to see what you're seeing, sadly. And the other solution, really, like I said, is prevention. Whoever's in charge of purchasing, whether it's for your home or your business, you can make program participation a lot easier for people if you simply avoid those questionable items. You know, if you don't know about the yellow paper, but you know that this alternative is recyclable or whatever, you know, you buy the stuff that makes it easy. One of my least favorite things is the plastics that, or the compostables that look like plastic, like a cold cup from.
Yeah.
You know, how are you supposed to know the difference between one that's a #1 plastic and one that's a plant-based compostable one? I mean, not everyone's going to look at it super closely to figure out, you know, okay, don't buy either one. Buy the paper version.
And those compostable ones, though, didn't you say that a lot of those can't go in the anaerobic digester?
They don't break down. In fact, they get in between the bacteria that we're using and the product and
Block it.
and block it from
Yeah.
doing what it's supposed to do. And then beyond that, there's so many different compostable plastic items on the market. Some of them will break down at the composting facility after they've left our place, and some won't. And if you take a bunch of those cups and you nest them, say you have 20 of them all nested, it's never going to break down. It's too thick. It's never going to get hot enough for long enough to break it down. So there's so much to know about how you can successfully compost those that it's like, just don't buy them. Buy the paper version. You have to really have a clear cup. Can it be paper?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to rant a little bit because I bought, when those compostable containers first came out, I got one with I usually try to bring my own containers for takeout, but I got one this one time and I put it in my backyard composter and it sat for a year and I dumped it out and it was like almost completely intact. And so I know that we're supposed to go ahead and throw them in the green bin for organics, but I'm not really fond of it because I sometimes when I buy compost, there's still little bits of stuff in there, and
when it goes to the
unappealing.
composter,
As a gardener,
they'll screen the product eventually and try to take out contaminants.
Yeah.
If that cup that you spent extra money on, because it's supposed to be compostable, if it hasn't started to break down, they're going to screen it out and landfill it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the landfill, it's still probably better than a plastic cup, right?
right?
But if it were paper, it would have been long gone.
So I do have a question, and maybe it's, this landfill technology or whatever. But is the landfill having a harder time breaking down now that there's not organics in it? Or
That's a good question too,
what
and
happens
that's what the
now?
state is after, keeping all organics
out of the landfill?
out of the landfill.
Does that make the landfill like more stable, more compact, more? I mean, what's going on with landfill technology?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one either.
Huh.
I think it will change the way they operate, the way they pipe closed landfills and what they have left. I tell kids all the time when they tour, though, that I can almost guarantee that in a couple of generations, say 50 to 75 years from now, I think that a major job will be mining of closed landfills. Because they will go back in, it'll be cheaper to go pull glass and metal from a landfill, especially in states that don't currently recycle.
Right.
There's plenty of them. Than it would be to mine it across the world and transport it here, right?
I mean, in a lot of third world countries, people already mine the garbage for.
We may very well see that here in a few generations, and
or sooner.
I'd rather mine through one that didn't have all the putrescible, rotting food.
Could you say that word again and spell it for us?
Putrescible? I think I said it right.
I love that. Yeah.
Putrid. It's a good word, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Putrescible. Okay.
Yeah, at the last community day in the park, I took a glass vase and I put in some soda and salsa and paper and a plastic Mylar wrapper. And I put it on the table, and I didn't really call too much attention to it because we were trying to promote other things. But just it had a little sign there saying, this is why sorting's important, because when things are cross-contaminated,
Can't
It's just
do anything
not.
with it.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any more questions for Oh, yeah.
Fine.
This is more of a comment. I saw something on the news about 2 months ago. It was really cool. I sent it to you, Adrienne. Remember it was about a woman on the East Coast who started a business distributing reusable food containers to fast food places.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you could do it with cups too, I think. And the idea is that you buy your food, you're just like you usually do, you get it in a takeout container. And then there are these bins all over town where when you're done with the food,
yeah.
put the takeout container in there.
Uh-huh.
And then mostly this was done on bicycles. People who worked for the company came and picked up the empties, washed them, redistributed them to the fast food places. And I think, to me, that seems like a way to get rid of a lot of the problematic waste,
Heard
because
something
it's the
about
fast
that,
food
too.
places. A lot of them are trying to use compostable stuff with good intentions, but as you're saying, it doesn't really work. So what I've been thinking about, and I really have no idea how to do it, is how to turn this into policy somehow. But it was really interesting. I don't know if, Adrienne, if you still have that link that I sent you, maybe the rest of the committee would like to see it.
I probably do somewhere in my email. I was remembering that there was a company that was doing it in San Francisco as well, but there
Oh,
were
really?
very few. Yeah, I thought I sent this back to you. There was because when you sent me that link about something happening on the East Coast, I was remembering hearing a story about it happening
Oh,
in San
okay.
Francisco a couple of years ago, and the company does still exist, but it seems like they haven't had a lot of restaurants decide to participate. So I'm not sure how exactly we convince restaurants to participate, but I know that there are some discussions happening countywide about food waste or foodware, disposable foodware. So we're going to be discussing that in November. I think there's going to be a meeting that's going to talk a little bit more about that. So, maybe that's an idea. I don't know if there's a way to fit it into legislation, but
A
out there.
mandate.
I think one of the challenges that they are faced with is health and hygiene. And even though they take these containers, and I don't know what they're made out of, plastic, glass,
Plastic, but they're sterilized.
they're
washed.
sterilized. And I know that I have a lot of reusable containers, and mine are sterilized, and they all go through the dishwasher, but they degrade after a while. And I've also taken my own containers to restaurants, but they will not take it into their kitchens.
Well,
Yeah,
that-
they're not-
They will
that was-
not.
That was the virtue of this,
Yeah.
because there are health department regs that really
Right.
prevent people
And I'm
from
glad of
bringing their
those.
own.
Glad of those regulations.
So yeah, so this company found a way around that by basically being a sort of a laundry service kind of for
Right.
fast food places. We deliver you clean sheets and we take the dirty ones and we wash them.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that sounded like a pretty good idea to me.
Yeah, I think it hasn't caught on though because of the nature of plastics. And
I don't know.
I think that may be why there's
I'll
some
be keeping my
resistance.
ears open. I think there's a lot of that stuff hopefully coming.
Yeah.
Well, this one on the East Coast is working. It's actually working, and it's a commercial business, right? And that acts like a commercial laundry, and it delivers, cleans, and takes away, collects the dirty ones from the bins where people can just dump them,
Uh-huh.
which is convenient for people.
Yeah.
They can just walk away with their food and then put the container in.
Yeah,
Pretty
and
cool.
festivals and high urban areas and stuff like that, I think it's great.
Me too. And you look at Burlingame Avenue, you look at 4th Street in San Mateo. Trying to think, up and down the peninsula where you look where there's a lot of coffee shops, lots of Pete's and Starbucks and Phil's and all that kind of stuff. You go in those public litter cans, and what is it? Huge percent of those
Yeah.
type things.
Disgusting.
People know that they can bring their own cup and save a few cents if they do, and they still don't do it. So I don't know. I mean, if there's, I know that's not the same thing as take out food, but if somebody came up with a business model that would work and they did whether they're plastic reusable or stainless reusable or whatever, could make it work, it would be fantastic.
It would be fantastic.
I don't bring my own cup a lot of time. I forget. You know, somebody says, let's go have coffee. Well, gee, didn't plan
Well,
this out too well. Didn't
And if
my
you're
cup-
staying there, they should ask you, is it to go? Because if you're staying, they should provide you with a reusable.
Yeah.
Or they should never put the lid on without you asking. Should always be or the sleeve. They should just give you the cup. At least that little bit will help.
Yeah.
That change.
These small changes make a difference, and one of the ones that has been driving me crazy personally is at the swimming pool. I don't think we should be laminating the swimming passes. I think we should make them on just a little bit stiffer paper and not laminate them.
So they can be
Second you
recycled.
laminate it, it's a piece of plastic garbage.
Yeah.
Okay, instead of a piece of paper. And if people are worried about getting wet, I mean, they have a box there you can keep your pass in if you want to. And I think as the city should just eliminate the laminator. I think it's a bad thing, and it bugs me. I have to remind them, don't laminate my pass. Don't laminate it. You know. and so I think that those are small things that we really can make a difference, and we're about to ban plastic straws. Good. We should stop laminating things that don't really need to be laminated. You know, every little litter bit hurts.
Every piece, right?
Yeah. Sorry, that's my rant today. Anybody else? Before we let poor Teresa go home
All
and
got
finish
in our
our
rants.
meeting. We love to
I've
talk
made it
trash
really
too.
long.
Thank you,
I'm
Teresa.
super glad to be here, and just remember, reach out. I'm out in the field a lot, but I'm pretty good at returning emails and phone calls. And if you want to come back for a tour at some point, let me know.
I think you should take a trip to Tokyo and see how they do it.
I would love to.
Put it in for your boss.
That would be fantastic. Find some successful ways to do things. It's a cultural change.
It's a cultural change. It really is. But that's what it's going to take. And look at the cultural change we've made already. I mean, really, considering what we did as kids versus now.
Well, yeah, and if you leave California and you go move to a state that doesn't have recycling, it bothers all of us,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
pretty much anybody from the Bay Area, if you can't recycle ever anything, it feels wrong. So that's at least good.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank
Teresa.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Just as a thing, I think that you should take Teresa's presentation and on tape and replay it on our public access channel so they get to
Yes,
hear about what goes in the landfill, what the anaerobic digester does, etc. I think people would really be interested. I think. I mean, people like to talk trash. No wish cycling. Yes.
Teresa, is it also okay if we send out a PDF of your slides to the committee and members who weren't here? Okay, I know folks have asked about that before.
Good. Okay.
And snap lids for my milk cartons.
No, you're going to use the bread box. Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of the August minutes. Does anyone have any changes, additions, etc. to the August minutes? And if not, would anyone like to make a motion to approve them?
Looks
Bye.
good to me.
Do I hear a motion?
Oh, wait, this is the second page. Let's see.
Thank you, Teresa. Motion to approve?
Can we just look at the last page?
Okay.
Kim? Mm. But there's still another page. It's a lot of minutes. Okay. I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, good, okay. Next comes subcommittee reports. So on open space includes that we have not had a subcommittee meeting on that. Climate Action Plan?
We did have a meeting. You want to start off, Glenn?
So we were still working on our list of measures, as I
Yeah.
recall. Isn't that right? Isn't that what we did our last?
Trying to get at my.
I'm trying
place
to
in my
remember if
calendar.
that was the last meeting or if there was another one since then. I think at one we talked about CAP staff training.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
after
we did.
the
Staff
measures.
training.
We did,
Okay.
and we kind of decided to take a different approach to the staff training than the set of slides we have. So I think that's going to be our next meeting, right? Is we'll work on the staff training. Is that the plan?
Perhaps. We have submitted the measures to the consultants a while back and are expecting to hear back from them
Okay.
hopefully soon. So it may depend on the timing of the meeting and when we hear back from them. If we have some results back from them, we'll probably focus
On that.
on that so we can turn it back around to them.
Yeah, I
um,
know
if
because we've
need
got a
be.
very short timeline on
Yeah,
that. So.
but we do want to definitely get moving on the staff training as well. So
Thank
maybe
you. Yeah.
one or the other or both of those topics.
Okay, events.
Oh, we also talked a little bit about the environmentally preferred purchasing policy.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian and Karen were real superheroes trying to get something incorporated into the new procurement policy. And I had a chance to review that, and my comments came kind of late, and they were really good about trying to accommodate some of those things. So I wanted to give a shout out to staff for doing a good job there.
So for events, Mary, do you want to talk about Habitat Day, and Claire, do you want to talk about Day in the Park? So Mary, when we did the coastal cleanup.
Oh, yes, yeah, coastal cleanup.
Since you were going like
That was a big
picture.
success, yes, it was. It was my first, and hopefully many more to come. I was shocked when we drove up and saw all the garbage. It was unbelievable. But it was amazing. Everybody chipped in, and we had that place cleaned up in probably 2 to 2.5 hours, right?
But yeah, 2.5.
2.5, 3 hours. Well worth it, and it looked beautiful after.
Yeah,
It was
great.
gorgeous. Yeah, so it was a huge success. I was surprised how many people came out. There was probably 2 van loads.
There was about 23 people.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So,
On that
Yeah.
note, I just really want to commend the city staff for making that happen. It has been a dream of mine for the last couple of years that we do that bird marsh along Harney Way, and I cannot tell you how it made me feel for us to do that.
it's very well organized, by the way, so thank you.
Yeah, it was great. And Claire?
Yeah, day in the park was very good. We had the kids' activity was making flags, and I think we got quite a few kids' flags that we have that maybe are going to be displayed somewhere. Adrian also, I think, got a lot of home intel signups, at least like 2, 3, 4.
We had 5 signups that completed the full sign-up in person, and then I need to follow up with James to see if anybody else who took flyers has followed through, but it's relatively decent. 5 who did it right there on site. It's not bad.
So that almost doubled our total.
City of Brisbane, you are letting me down. I
Better as a
promised we were
percentage.
going to beat Cupertino for a participation percentage.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. Don't shame me.
There was, I definitely saw a bunch of interest in the smart strip. I saw you explaining it several times to people, Adrian. I thought that was really cool. And then I was really grateful that Ross brought his solar panel to light up our day. That was really awesome also. Day in the Park didn't have quite the level of turnout I was hoping for. But just on an aside note, I really appreciated the new layout compared to the last 2 years. It was much more
That's nice.
friendly. It was more comfortable, and I felt more like we were part of Day in the Park.
I too.
My compliments on that.
I too felt that was an big improvement from my perspective as a participant. We had a lot more people coming by the booth than we had had the previous 2 years.
Yeah, so that was great. The next thing is education and outreach. That's Glenn, Mary, and Claire.
So we decided we liked the poop fairy idea.
Oh, what?
Poop fairy. That was a big hit.
That's the main thing I remember from the meeting. It was definitely the high point.
Is that like the rainbow unicorn?
So it's just we were thinking about signage saying there is no such thing as the poop fairy. Please clean up after your pet.
Oh, I love it.
There are at least 3 people in my neighborhood who have those signs in their yard. We
This
found.
is all Adrian's fault. She introduced the idea of the poop fairy, and we took it and we ran with it, and ran. But
Oh, no, you didn't.
but I'm not entirely remembering exactly what we decided to do with it. But we did like it, and we thought it would work in Brisbane. So we're going to make signs.
We were talking about, I think we got to that because we were talking about signage for the Adopt a Spot stations.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm actually thinking that Michelle's line a little bit ago might have been really good. Every litter bit hurts.
Yes, and that is not an original line from me. I heard that decades ago. Every litter bit hurts.
That was a new one for me. So
Yeah.
maybe
Well, you're too
another
young.
option to put into the mix.
So, and speaking about the poop fairy, the first thing I did on Day in the Park was have to pick up dog poop on the lawn.
See, we need the poop fairy.
Yeah. And fortunately, I had the bags I've been gathering for Barbara in the car, so I had something to pick up the poop with. So the next thing is, was that it for education and outreach? So,
I think Adrian's been also doing the Meatless Monday things in the emails. So, with like a recipe and an environmental fact to try and help kind of spur.
I've noticed the Meatless Mondays in the city weekly news.
I haven't gotten anybody sending me any recipes yet, so
Oh,
feel free.
Okay.
Okay.
give you some. Have we gotten any responses to it at all?
No. I'm putting it out there. Someday somebody's going to make one of those recipes and tell me how great it is or something. I don't know. Yeah.
We're working
Like
on
at
it.
a social media, we'll be like, oh, if you hashtag it on Instagram, a picture of your meal. We'll
Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
I'll work that in this week.
Invasive species ordinance, we have not met on that, but I will tell you that the state, did they sign the bill? They had a bill that they were working on, and I just read about it. Bob?
I was going to report on that later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all right.
Excellent. All right, festival tree replacement, nothing. Littman Science Fair,
Not seasonal. That's not until January.
okay. PCA grant application, have we heard anything about that at all?
No, and I just checked their website again a couple weeks ago. There's still nothing posted, and I am 99% certain I am on their email list, supposed to be getting an update when there's anything, and nothing.
Okay. 280 South Hill funds, Mary? Anything?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Signboard replacement with Parks and Rec.
Both the ones here, they were getting ready to meet. They're still getting quotes from vendors, so they hope to meet soon.
Okay. And liaison for tree ordinance.
Ken has not scheduled another meeting. I'm pretty sure he's working on it furiously.
Okay, that completes the subcommittee reports, calendar items. Well, let's see. October, we just had our scavenger annual waste diversion report. I think next year we should set a goal of let's get it up to 82% diversion. That's only 3 more percentage points. If we really work hard on educating people, I think we could be able to do that.
The cap goal for 90%, that's just municipal, right? Oh, we should have asked Teresa if she has any way of measuring when the municipal reaches 90%.
I actually had talked with her
Oh, good.
while we were discussing the measures. It sounds like it would be very difficult, but there are some ways that we could potentially estimate. So
Okay.
we'd had a conversation about that probably a couple months ago.
So our November meeting is going to be the Solux Alpha Tour. Did you, were you going to go over that? Or?
I was going to go over that when we
Okay.
talk about our next meeting.
All right. And then also be thinking about all the things that we've done this year to tell Adrian, and all the things that Adrian and Bob and Karen have done this year to tell us, which has been amazing. And then December, we have the acres management, etc. Okay. Is there anything else on calendar items that we needed to go over? All right. Then we have chair and committee member matters. Oh dear. Are you going to show that picture every week? I wore the same shirt. But it's clean. I washed it.
I mean, I can change it if you want, but the only one we have of everyone together, and even then it was faked.
Okay, chair and committee member matters. Do we have any chair and committee member matters? Going once, going twice? Okay.
I had wanted to bring up that one resident who mentioned he didn't know about his garbage service, but Adrian already addressed that, so it's fine.
Okay. Global Climate Action Summit reports. Whew. Oh, look at that. You look so worldly, Karen.
We are saying peace on earth.
I like it.
Yeah.
Did you have?
You know, this was kind of a holdover from last month, and when last month it was going to be the week after, it would all be fresh in our minds, and there would be all kinds of fun things to share, and it feels like it was a while ago now already.
It was, yeah.
It was, I have to say, it was a whirlwind week that there was just so much really amazing content. I think I went to like 8 events in 7 days or something like that. So it was pretty hectic, but there were some good pieces, some good networking. I met a number of folks at a couple of events who may be interested in bidding on our Air District grant. So some good contacts there. The Solux Alpha Tour was really awesome enough that we're going to go there next month. Got some great ideas. Actually, the event Barbara was at might have been one of my favorites. It was the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance had a Game Changers and No-Brainers report that they had folks from around the world talking about different climate change strategies that their cities are implementing, and just some really good kind of tips and things included in there about I went to a breakout session on building electrification, and was really interesting to hear some of the things that are happening in Colorado, and how much they are struggling with it, and there really needs to be market development before we can really push some of those things forward. So I guess the biggest takeaway, everything that was said the whole week long, was really the need for urgency and voting for climate. So those kind of things were discussed at just about every single event I went to, I think, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of really great tips. I have like 12 pages of notes, so I'm not going to read them all to you. But we've talked a little bit more at the CAP subcommittee about a few of those ideas and events, and Glenn and I and Councilwoman Cunningham went to an event at the end of the week on climate finance. So I think there was some interest there that we need to probably follow up on and pursue some ideas there. So all in all, really exciting.
There were a lot of people excited that we were even talking about making a contribution to international climate finance.
I also went to a really good session on urban forestry and got some really good contacts. And learned about some legislation that should actually really help us move forward on our climate action plan. I didn't notes or somewhere, but yeah, it was a great session. So it was the whole conference was just amazing.
It really was.
Okay.
And if you're feeling down about it, go to the Global Climate Action Summit website and go to the news where you can see the list of all of the commitments that were made that week. A little bit of a pick-me-up.
They were going to have a lot of the presentations available. Have they posted those yet?
You know, I haven't been back
Okay,
to look
neither
at the
have I.
site until I think I went back a few days after
Mhm.
to look over some of those kind of news and what commitments were made, but I haven't been back since. So probably, I would guess most things are posted now.
Okay. Next is staff updates.
Okay. I think you guys have covered a couple of them. One event that happened since our last meeting, and feels like forever ago now, was the Green Business Lunch and Learn that we hosted here in this room on September 6th. So I think there were maybe like a dozen people here. Seemed like it was pretty well attended as far as the County Green Business staff was concerned. So I thought that was pretty successful. We've already talked about the Coastal Cleanup Day and Day in the Park items. Our Air District grant was finally signed and executed. The RFP is drafted, and I'm hoping to be able to send it out and post it by the end of the week. It's getting close. We are also working on a zero net energy study. So I think perhaps we've mentioned to this committee, or we have at least mentioned to the CAP subcommittee, that we are moving forward with a heat pump water heater for the pool. So Karen's working on that RFP, and we had an audit of City Hall this morning. So that piece is the kind of other piece that the consultants are able to do in their kind of funding that they have for cities this year. And actually we had separately had a lighting a few weeks ago from Energy Watch, and that was actually something that was recommended for our green business certification. So we have a lighting audit, and we have filled out the little form to request on-bill financing, waiting to hear back on that to see if we're able to do on-bill financing to go ahead and do some lighting change out to LED in this building. Let's see, Barbara mentioned the procurement policy, so I think that's moving forward already. And there's been so many events in the last few weeks. I think it was last week, maybe the week before. Ken from planning and I went to a Bay Ren Reach Codes workshop over in Oakland. So that was really interesting because the rulemaking is kind of still in the process for the next code cycle. But it was kind of exciting because they're discussing ways that they can do some of those cost effectiveness studies on kind of a statewide scale or regional scale, and asking cities, you know, just raise your hand if this might be something you'd be interested in, and, you know, no commitment, but if we can show that we have a lot of jurisdictions interested, the state will fund those cost effectiveness studies, which are fairly expensive and probably not very realistic for a small city like Brisbane to do on our own. So it may help to make some of those reach codes more within reach.
Yeah, next time you guys go to one of those, I'd love to come. I always find the Bay Ren stuff extremely interesting, if at least if it's open to citizens or community members.
I think that one was specifically for
okay.
Jurisdiction staff, but I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can probably get on their email list as an.
Yeah.
But I know sometimes they have.
I
kind of
get on
targeted
there.
lists that only go to.
Yeah, I get some of their stuff, but it's a little spotty. I don't know if it's getting sorted into my spam or if it's just I don't know.
The San Mateo County Energy Watch newsletter also
Yeah, that's
has
a good one.
it always includes the Bay Ren stuff and has other area events. So if you're interested in that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
okay.
they'd be a good one to keep an eye out for. I think that covers most. Well, Teresa mentioned SB 1383. She and I were both at a Zero Food Waste Forum yesterday, and I mentioned that the county is organizing a working group on kind of food waste and disposable foodware. So there are some efforts that might be coming together at the county level on some of those things. We'll see exactly where that is going in the next couple of months.
Oh, I just wanted to add in, last year I was at a Green Festival event and I got a paper, it was actually not paper, I said the wrong thing, a bowl that was a thin veneer of wood that was just like shaved off a piece of wood. And I thought that was so incredibly interesting and powerful because just the process of taking wood and pulping it and digesting it and then forming it into paper is super water intensive, energy intensive, and chemically intensive. So this little bowl that was just made out of just a slice of paper, I keep saying paper, it wasn't paper, a slice of wood, was just one of those like amazing aha moments for me of like how much of the process you can just cut out. How much of the process you can just eliminate, how much of the footprint you can just discard. And so I gave it to the Lions and I was like, maybe you guys could use this. Because I'm always just really excited about making Brisbane, seeing Brisbane be on the edge of on the leading edge of these issues. So we'll say rah rah. Maybe. And the Green Business Luncheon was great. I made it to that too, and I was able to talk to a couple of people. So please keep me up to date if we get some more sign-ups.
I know they're having a change of staff over at the county, so I haven't heard much back from them since then. But
Do we have anything else on staff updates?
I know you have one.
Yeah.
So I've gone to a few things recently. I did a volunteer invasive species training on a Saturday down in Cupertino, wherever the satellites are. Anyway, that was pretty neat. But I went to looking for the invasive species ordinance. Went to the Calipsy webpage and I found out about San Mateo County has a WMA, which is a weed management area, which is a joint powers throughout California, and I hadn't heard of them, so I emailed them and went to their last meeting, and they were pretty excited that a city was interested because Santa Clara County has some cities interested, but San Mateo hadn't had any cities reach out, so that was really good reception. And so I sat in on that, and they meet every 2 months, and I will be going to those from now on, and so that's going to be a lot of good resources. Hannah Armshaw was there from San Mateo County Parks, but a lot of the ag department, and they're pretty heavy on the agricultural invasive species, but they like the branching out for our more urban wild interface. And anyway, I made some good contacts, and so maybe it'll be time soon for a subcommittee meeting to go over those. But one of the things that happened is this new bill, Assembly Bill 2470, did pass, and it codifies the Invasive Species Council of California. And so to start, they got $2 million in new funding, but I guess back last time they had gotten funding, it was like in the $16 million or so, so they're asking for more, and this is the first step, they said. So the local chapter won't receive any funding until early 2019, I think is what they reported, and maybe not a lot right away, but that kind of money would be grants for invasive species removal, and they had some ideas for programs moving forward where, if, let's say we don't get an ordinance, but we want to, incentivize getting them out of people's private property, that kind of thing. And so, so that all seems really good, and that's all taken off right now. And so it's nice to get those countywide contacts and see kind of how other people are doing it. Yeah. So that's my big staff update. Oh, and then we had the gray water laundry to landscape class that Bosca funded, and we had 12 people turn out for that, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, great. Bob, could you let me know the next time you're going to the meeting? If I can, I would be interested to go.
Sure. It's and I'll check with them. It's in Half Moon Bay or El Granada, and
yeah,
I'll let you know when I hear about it.
Okay, thanks. This is very exciting.
Regarding invasive species, is the county still working on the the county park. I mean, you and I and Adrian went up there last year and identified some places where there were invasive species in the park. Are they still doing work up there? Can we still recommend?
They are. They're for sure still working. And I, off the top of my head, don't know what their priorities are, but I plan on touching base with them as we get moving forward with our vegetation management, so I can ask.
Pampas grass. There's really quite a bit of it up there. I've been seeing it, and I can go up there with you again if you want and show you where it is. But it's taken off.
Where?
Up on the top, especially on the south side of Guadalupe Canyon. You know, when you
By Wax Myrtle?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Where
It is.
you know where it goes down off. There's the highway, and then there's a kind of a steep ravine.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to see unless you look down there.
Yeah.
And looking down there.
Yeah, that's
lots of
Wax
Pampas
Myrtle.
grass.
They took care of it about 8 years ago, and then it's come back. And
Yeah, so I saw 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 last year, and now it's like up in the dozen.
there's also a huge one that's coming up right above the Mission Blue Field on that area there.
Yeah. Oh, this reminds me of a different update. So, Marin County recently did a mapping program that is super high definition, and they use LiDAR and aerial, and there's a different technology I'd never heard of. And they've already done most of it for San Mateo County, and it's accurate enough that they can identify species and down to a single plant. And so that is, it's going to take some more money and another year or so to finish up to make that available. But I know Hannah from San Mateo County, she's involved with that now. And so as far as those kind of things, they'll be able to track. And I don't know how often they'll update, but it'll be like a really good, they're doing it for invasive species mapping and
rare species mapping.
yeah. And so anyway, that's another update of the technology is amazing of how, you know, from their photos, they can, they do test plots, and then they do like computer learning or AI to see if it recognizes it, and they go out in the field and verify. But in Marin, they said it was great success where it's down to individual plants where they had right. So anyway, that's another part of it that's all, but I've been talking to Hannah about that and about the WMA, so I'll ask about the recommendations we made for the park.
Okay.
Can we also get a status update on Clippy Hill? Can we get a status update on Clippy Hill by for our next meeting, or?
Status
Starting
now.
with the
Yeah, it's supposed to be dedicated to the Parks Department, and I believe all the homes have occupancy now, so kind of want to know what's going on with that. And it does kind of come under open space in ecology.
Yeah, I'll take a note.
Huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm in the loop of being told, but I can ask. I mean,
Yeah.
if it had, I might not have heard.
Okay, I'm just asking because, you know, I'm thinking about that pampas, now that Glenn's making me think of pampas grass, I'm thinking about that pampas grass that's up there that really needs to get taken out, because if we don't get those outliers, then the next thing you know, everything's covered in it.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so, and this time of year they're all in plume, and it just spreads like wildfire. I mean, look at the Baylands, it's completely covered now
Yeah.
with pampas grass. So we really need to stop that in its tracks, and it's an area that, you know, you're really not supposed to go to without permission, I guess. So let's find out. Was there anything else for our staff updates? It looks like we have, our next meeting is going to be Sol Lux Alpha Tour. And are we meeting here, or are we meeting there, or how are we doing that?
That's what we need to discuss.
Okay.
So one thing to consider is that our usual meeting time is 6:30. We would hope to be at Solux Alpha by 6:30 at the latest. He encouraged us to come earlier if possible, because they do have a lovely roof deck and bifacial solar panel array up there to take a look at. But by 6:30 on November 14th, it's going to be dark. So if we can get there sooner, if that's something that might be possible for a committee member.
I can make it earlier.
I probably can too.
What about you, Glenn?
Yeah, I can do it. I prefer to meet here, though. Parking in the Mission is just a nightmare.
Yeah, maybe we should carpool from here.
We thought we would probably try to arrange that.
That'd be great.
And then we weren't sure if, we tour this. This is actually a 3-unit condo that's for sale. If we could do our regular meeting business there with, this guy that's opening up for a tour, or maybe we could go to somewhere that's like a coffee shop or a place to eat or something, finish our meeting.
Yeah, we could do it over dinner. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
We could do it at Herbivore.
It's gone.
Oh, Herbivore's gone.
Out of business.
You wrecked my world.
Well, we were thinking walking distance, like maybe
Okay.
there's Evergreen Vietnamese, or there are a couple places that are
Okay.
a couple blocks away that aren't.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly where these places were. I thought there was a couple Herbivores, but
Where is
So-
this?
It's on Florida at 19th.
okay, yeah, that wouldn't have been close to Herbivore.
I put the address on the agenda.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
the address is
Sorry.
there. I'm just not picturing it.
So question, if we met here at 5 o'clock, would we get there soon enough?
No, I think we need to be earlier.
Or do we need to meet here earlier than 5?
Well, I mean, what is the earliest that's convenient for everybody? Because I do think it would be nice to kind of.
I teach until 3:30, so,
Okay. How fast you get out of there and get back here, without stressing out.
I'd say probably 4:15, 4:30.
Okay, so would 4:30 work for everybody?
Is that soon enough?
Might have to be.
I mean, I think anything we can do to be earlier than 6:30 is good, and I want to make it realistic for people to be able to get here. So
Yeah.
I think I would say meeting here at 4:30 to carpool there.
Does that work for everybody else?
Yeah.
We do have 2 committee members who are not here right now. I will go out on a limb and say I will guess Ross may not be there no matter what.
That's true.
But
Yeah, Megan's schedule is generally flexible, so I think we've got good odds of her being able to attend at 4:30. I have less idea about Ross.
Sun sets at 4:58 p.m. on November 14th in San Francisco, according to them.
Ooh, maybe we could do
4:15.
Let's try for 4:15.
Okay.
And just, we'll all be waiting in the car with the engines running for.
Not with the
Better
engines
not.
running.
Well, okay, fine.
Okay.
I've got an electric car, so.
Okay, is that, so we're set on that?
let's call that tentative, and
Okay.
then we'll follow up by email, or I'll give the other committee members a call, and we'll see if they can work with that as well, and
Okay.
hopefully be able to set that.
Sounds good.
Great.
Yeah, so this is my last meeting because I'm moving, which is very sad, but really enjoyed the short time on the Open Space and Ecology Committee, and I feel like I learned a lot of stuff from everyone, so thank you.
We will miss you.
We will miss you very much, Claire, and we really appreciate your contribution. Your energy for Day in the Park was inspiring, right, Mary? and your ideas were great, and I wouldn't have an outdoor closed drawing rack now if you hadn't found it on Craigslist. So we really wish you good luck in Colorado, and stay warm.
So, I'm sorry to be putting a nail in the coffin, but what is City Council? I guess will be looking for somebody new to eventually.
Yeah, I mean, Claire hasn't turned in her resignation,
okay.
but we also had someone else move away from Complete Street, so they probably, I think it has to go to the council, and they have to direct staff to fill them, but I bet they'd be trying to fill both of those.
Yeah.
Because we're a year, they're on the even year cycle, so it would be a whole year that we'd be down a member if we didn't do it now.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else before? Is there a move to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
Oh boy, can I really hit this?
Yes. Yeah.
We're adjourned.
Let us adjourn.